NAACP for having this forum. I was happy to be here in August before the primary, because that was July. And so a little bit about my background. I do have a degree, accounting degree, and I have my CPA, passed that back in the 80s, and also have my MBA, so I have a strong business background. I also worked as a commercial realtor. But I think most importantly, what I've been doing that I'm most proud of is my public service. I was mayor of Saline for 14 years. I was on city council before that. And I really started from a place of community service. And you know, I moved to Saline 28 years ago, and with a young baby and young family, and got involved pretty quickly with building a rec center in Saline. My family background comes military service. My son's in the Navy. My father served in World War II, and my grandfather's career military. So my family value was around public service, and that was what I was raised. I know many of you are here because you believe in giving back to our country and to our community. So I've had the great good fortune of working alongside a lot of community members and doing the work, and I would look forward to working with you to be your representative in the 7th Congressional District. But I do have a background in a lot of public policy areas, economic development. I worked very closely with small businesses. I'm currently a commercial realtor, and so I understand all the challenges that go in having successful communities. Thank you.
Same question, Congressman Wahlberg.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here tonight, and thank you, each of you, for coming. Thank you for the NAACP for hosting this, and Dale for you and WLAN Broadcasting. Thanks as well to all of the candidates that I had a chance to listen to. Until you run for office, you don't understand the challenge that it is, and people decide to run to make an impact for their communities, and whether it be Democrat, Republican, Independent, nonpartisan, whatever, it is a special thing that America is involved with. Probably the most important thing, I'm a husband, 42 years. That makes me attentive to listening and taking good advice. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 6. I have a son-in-law and a daughter-in-law. All of that is a personal life situation that is real. I was a pastor for 10 years before going to the dark side in politics, though I don't think it's a dark side. I think it's a place of service, just like the pastorate. I have an undergrad degree in education. I have a master's degree in communications. That comes in handy when you have to speak to 434 other members of Congress, many of whom aren't listening to you, and try to make a point. Try to work in a situation where compromise can't be a bad term. You just have to know what lines you can or can't cross, and you have to be moving forward all of the time. I've represented you 16 years in the State House. I was out 8 years back in the private sector, was brought back in to represent you in Congress now into my 4th term. Thank you for that privilege.
Our next question, what is your opinion of the public school system in Michigan, and what do you think the federal government's role is in providing quality public school education to all children? And Congressman Wahlberg, we'll start with you.
I serve on the House Education and Workforce Committee. Those two things ought to go together. Education, work. That's what we're being educated for. Article 8, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution says all political power, religion, morality, knowledge is necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind. Schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. That's in the state constitution. There is no such article or section in the federal constitution. The responsibility for education is in the states and in the local communities, and the federal government should do everything possible to stay out of the way. I'm proud of what we've accomplished in this last term of office, and even getting the President to sign it. Every Student Succeeds Act, which turns the responsibilities back and dollars to follow to our states and our local community schools. The opportunity for parents, for school board members, for teachers, for administrators to make the difference in the lives of students who they know better than any bureaucrat or any Washington legislator. That's what we did in saying also, we're going to take away many of the mandates, including Common Core and No Child Left Behind. Things that had good ideas, but are unworkable in many cases at the local district that knows better how to do it. So I think our responsibility is to turn back the authority, the opportunity, and accept the fact that just as many good ideas are here as are in Washington.
Same question for Gretchen Driscoll.
Sure, thank you. Well, coming from a local community with a great school system, I know Adrian has a good school system too, and how important that is not only for the community and the businesses to make sure you have a talented workforce. That's a lot of work that I've done in my past history in local government and also in state government. But I think really the most important piece about education is making sure that we have equal opportunity in education. And I do think the federal government has a role in that. I do think that the federal government can be a partner and do that without a mandate. But there are tools that need to be provided to all students. And all students need to have an opportunity to have a good education. And I think programs like Head Start, which has been documented to show that major success for communities, that low-income students, low-income communities really have made a huge difference. And those are programs that really can help student success. And also I think Pell Grants, there's a lot of ways to partner to make sure that all people have a good opportunity to have a strong education so that we do have a strong workforce. So that's really, I think that, coming from a community where I worked very closely with our school system, side by side we worked, and I know everyone here in Adrian and Tecumseh schools are the #1 value that is brought to the table for businesses, for people make a decision if they can, make a decision where they live based on schools, to make sure that schools provide the proper mechanisms for educating our kids for the future. And I think that's key as a partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is kind of a two-question type approach here. Do you view Social Security and Medicare as benefits that Americans have earned? And do you believe that Social Security program is in need of a tune-up or a major overhaul? Gretchen Driscoll, will send that to you first.
I do believe that Social Security and Medicare are fundamental social contracts with our community members, and that we need to make sure that we provide Social Security. It is a contract that we have made for decades with our seniors, and I know that there's some concern. There has been talk out there by some elected folks of privatizing both the Social Security and Medicare. I do not support that.
Okay. Congressman Tim Walberg.
There are some that bristle at the idea of Social Security and Medicare being entitlements, but that's exactly what they are. We're entitled to them because we paid into them. We had no choice, in fact. And it's a contract that's been made, it's a promise that hasn't been made, and it's a promise that should be kept. For that reason, I've authored legislation introduced in the House that would establish a lockbox, that all Social Security dollars that would go in from us are locked up and to be used only for Social Security and Medicare purposes. I believe it's a promise. It ought to be kept. I also believe that we're in trouble. And to simply use fear and smear, as so often happens in campaigns, and saying that someone who wants to repair it and fix it and make sure it's there for the people that expect it is going to destroy it, that's absolutely false. We must plan ahead. Medicare has been since 2010 in deficit. Social Security is moving toward deficit as well. Are we going to accept the fear and smear tactics that say anybody who wants to touch it wants to privatize it? I want to privatize it. I want to fix it and make sure it works. And for anyone who is expecting Social Security soon or is on it, they can count on it having it. My record has been there in the votes, and I'll continue. And as I said, the lockbox would go a long way to say, politicians, keep your hands off of it, then fix it, and make sure it works.
Our next question. Economic development is the key to success for our community. What specifically will you do to support economic development in Lenawee County? Congressman Walberg, we'll start with you.
Well, Lenawee County is important. The state of Michigan is important. But the best thing we can do for economic development is get out of the way as much as possible from the federal government. Leave resources here that are vital to be left. You know, when you go to that wonderful little document called the Constitution, and I know many people have forgotten the value of this, that it offers the security that everyone in this country, regardless of who they are, where they come from, will be treated with justice. And it also limits what the federal government can do so that the states in the local communities can have impact on the issues that they are most concerned with and most intimately involved with. But there are purposes for the federal government. And I think one thing we can do, and that I've been working in aggressively, along with my colleagues in the U.S. House Republican Conference, is a Better Way proposal that touches 6 key areas, including economic development, and says if we give incentives for entrepreneurial effort, allow small businesses to achieve, reduce unnecessary, and make that clear, unnecessary regulatory climate that costs almost $2 trillion just for compliance today for our small businesses, reduce unnecessary taxes, spread it so we all share, we grow the economy because we have resources that we can use and we can develop. We have opportunities for more jobs because businesses are growing and people have a chance to expand their capabilities and middle class grows again. That's the best way we can do it. Limit government, allow the power of the people.
Same question for Gretchen Driscoll.
So I think we have a fundamental difference about government getting out of the way. I think, again, I believe that government, there is a role for good government, and as mayor and as a state representative, I was a partner with business. There is undue regulation, but there is also a reasonableness factor there. We want public health and safety. I think that's a fundamental role of good government. And I did partner with businesses as small as 1 employee to our Ford plant that had over 2,000 people. And we were able to keep that Ford plant open because it was an important part of our economy in Saline during the downturn. So I would also say that for me personally, I think every community in the 7th, small businesses is the fundamental linchpin. About 2/3 of our economy is small business, and I really think that is the key here. And Adrian, I know there's some great economic activity going on, and I would like to see that continue. I know you have some great programs going on in Adrian with your downtown revitalization, bringing young people back to the downtown, making sure that we have investment. But again, government can be a partner. I did that as mayor, but I also, as a commercial realtor, I worked with startups and also went as far as Germany to recruit business to come to Michigan. So I know what it takes to work with business as a partner, and I think that economic development is a way to identify where there are gaps. For example, I had a business, sadly, that was going out of business, and she put up a sign for going out of business sale, and she had to pull a permit. Now, it was $100 for the permit, and she was going out of business. So we had that law changed so that our city of Saline and local governments could decide whether or not that business was actually going out of business or pretending to have a bankruptcy sale. So did change the state law for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. The Michigan state legislatures have passed voting laws that have been found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. H.R. 885, a bill that protects voting rights, is stuck in committee. Number 1, do you support H.R. 885, and will you work to bring it to the floor for a vote? Gretchen Driscoll will send it to you first.
Yes, I think voting rights are fundamental, and here in Michigan in particular, we're having big challenges. As was mentioned, we've actually had 2 bills come out of elections that have had court-ordered injunctions blocking them because they were unreasonable blockage to our voting rights. As I mentioned, I have generations of family that fought for our rights of freedom, and I am very patriotic, and I think that is the #1 issue that so many people feel that is our fundamental right to have our right to vote. And over decades, we fought for that, for our freedom. And so I actually am the minority chair of elections in Michigan, and I have introduced a voter bill of rights for the Michigan. We actually are we're one of the bottom 3 states in the country for voter rights. There are many states that allow early voting, no reason absentee voting, online registration, which would actually save the state money, but there doesn't seem to be interest in that. So I definitely think that we can have a stronger voting rights both in the state and at the federal level, and I've worked hard to make sure that happens.
Congressman Wahlberg.
Dale, could you read that question again?
Sure. The Michigan state legislatures have passed voting laws that have been found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. H.R. 885, a bill that protects voting rights, is stuck in committee. Number 1, do you support H.R. 885, and will you work to bring it to the floor for a vote?
And this is a federal bill that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a bill that's stuck in committee because bottom line is these are states' rights issues. Michigan has not been found to be in violation of voters' rights for the basic rights that we have. It was a particular issue that was brought up, and again fostered by partisan to try to make a point that the federal government should be telling the states how they run their voting process in the state of Michigan. And so that's why I wanted to make it very clear that we were talking about a federal law pushing down on one specific state to make a law in place that goes beyond really what is in the Constitution. If you look at the 10th Amendment, which gives the priority and authority to the states and only allows to the federal government those things that are in the Constitution or specifically placed in law by the states for the federal government to carry out. So that's the position I'm at on that basic issue. But on voters' rights, my gracious, this country is a place that it's primary, that we're allowed to vote, that we take responsibility with voting. We ought to do that with due diligence. Folks that are here tonight, you're doing that. You're listening to our comments before you vote. It ought to be a setting where we don't take it lightly and make it so easy that people can just vote without even considering. And that's the creative tension we have here, that an informed constituency is the best constituency to lead the country forward.
Our next question, in your opinion, what should be done to improve race relations and the relationship between law enforcement and minority citizens in America? Congressman Wahlberg.
I think the best thing we can do is make sure that people in leadership positions encourage all citizens to abide by laws. And on the other side of the ledger, to make sure that all law enforcement individuals are giving significant training in making sure, number one, they understand the law, they understand civil rights issues, and that they are evaluated and not only evaluated, but are given requirements to carry out the policies that lead to successful carrying out of the law without putting people in a situation that brings about unnecessary frustration and challenge. I think that's what we're seeing now, and we have a limited number of these events, yet atrocious events around the country, and a lack of leaders at some of the highest levels of stepping up to the plate and saying, folks, let's cool down a bit. Let's deal with justly. Let's let the appropriate entities find out what went wrong and then make sure that there's swift and just penalty carried out in the situation. We have to be a nation that moves again back toward where we were. Sadly, in these last years, we've seen a degradation in the whole climate of race relations in this country. It's time for that to end.
Gretchen Driscoll, same question.
Well, again, coming from being mayor, well, actually locally elected for 20 years, I really understand the issue of community, and this is really, it's a very challenging issue. I think every person in our country has a right to feel safe and secure in their home, in their neighborhood, in their city, and I think we need to work together. This is about building relationships. I did advocacy work with our congressman during, there's community-oriented policing grants, which are grants that allow police to go into communities and build relationships. I think that the biggest issue we need, right, to work on is trust. We need to have partnerships. That means the community members need to come together, and I know many communities are doing that successfully, where they're talking to each other. What are the issues? And really this is about having strong communities, and that means trusting each other, building connections, and working hard on making sure that we have the relationships in the community so that we can have the kind of success. Things like the community-oriented policing, the video cameras, that police are wearing now, I think also protects both the police officer and the person that's being stopped. Something like that is a big, I think could definitely help a lot. But at the end of the day, I know our police officers are working very hard, and I also know that we have a lot of very many members of our society that are contributing to our society that are not being recognized as contributing. So again, I think this is about building relationships and making sure that we have trust between all these different stakeholder groups.
Our next question. What is your opinion of the current U.S. immigration policies? And what suggestions or ideas do you have that would assure that the political and socioeconomic concerns of Americans are addressed, as well as protecting the human rights of immigrants and provide those immigrants with opportunities to earn the right of American citizenship? Gretchen Driscoll, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Again, our country was founded, I don't know about, I can't really see out in the audience, but I don't know about all of you, but my family came to this country. I think a core value of our country is the creativity and the passion for building a better life, as what we're so proud of. The Statue of Liberty with their torch of freedom and the ability to have such an incredible country that we have and so much success that we have here. So I think that's a fundamental core value that we all have, while at the same time we want to make sure that we have a safe and secure country, as I mentioned earlier. So with that being said, I think we of course need to make sure that we have secure borders, but I also think that we should be having, at the same time, a comprehensive immigration reform package move forward. There was a bipartisan package introduced by the Senate, and I would support that we move forward with a path to citizenship for people that are here already, that are law-abiding citizens, that are contributing members of our society. I have done some work on this issue because I've done a lot of work on entrepreneurship and talent, trying to bring more talent to the state of Michigan. 25% of our venture capital companies are founded by foreign-born entrepreneurs. So there is a huge capacity for economic development if we make the right policies and we do make the right decisions and work in a bipartisan way to have success for our country.
Congressman Tim Walberg.
Yeah, I would concur that we are a nation of immigrants, unless you're Native American. We've all come here. My father came here for the American dream, came here through the right processes, signed the guest book, as it were, abide by the laws. And I think that's what we need to promote again. I think we need a cooling off period in some of this anti-immigrant, anti-refugee rhetoric that's out there. I think we need to understand that there are laws in place right now and red tape in place in our immigration process that need to be fixed. They are frustrating. They cause too much time to lapse between a person coming and having the opportunity to participate in the American idea. But our people also feel very fearful in a time of terrorist activity. We need to make sure that our borders are secured. So I think there's a comprehensive plan that's needed, starting with making sure our people understand and believe that we've secured the borders. Secondly, working with the red tape that keeps people from experiencing what they want. I think in turn we need to understand that without immigrants, we don't have the resources for the jobs that are here. They're in agricultural industry, in construction industry, in high-tech industry. There are people that could add to this melting pot in very positive ways. And so it's about time we work on it in this Better Way plan. We have a comprehensive plan that goes with national security as well. Just given the opportunity for a president who would sign it, I think we can move it forward and benefit all.
Our last question. Many cities and municipalities in Michigan have aging infrastructures. The streets, city water, sewer systems are in need of repair and or replaced in most cities and townships. What role do you think the federal government has to assist or support local municipalities with this to avoid similar situations such as what the city of Flint is experiencing? Congressman Walberg.
An important question, a question that we ask and answer in many ways in Congress over the past year and a half, many ways and many times. I was proud to be involved with our entire Michigan delegation, Democrat, Republican, in helping Representative Kildee, who represents Flint, to have the resources and the push to get assistance from the federal government. The EPA let Flint and let Michigan down. The DEQ of Michigan let Flint down. Flint city leadership let Flint down. The reason why we're helping is because the EPA, who had been asked by my committee, a committee on which I sat, for the past 6 years to upgrade the copper and lead rule has not done it to this day. That would have added a great help to making Flint not happen and giving a heads up to Flint to know what they needed to do. The rest of the country has seen Flint, and the cities across the United States better be taking responsibility for it. I know Adrian has done that. Other cities in my district, in the 7 counties, have done it. That needs to be done. We can't expect the federal government to pay for every single city, every single community in upgrading their water resources. So we had better be setting priorities at the local level to do the right thing and expect the regulators to do their right thing as well.
Same question, Gretchen Driscoll.
So infrastructure is key to community success and to our country's success, and we have failing infrastructure all over the country. We haven't been investing sufficiently in infrastructure. And, you know, again, as mayor, I did a lot of work on investing in infrastructure, and there are opportunities to partner with the federal government around drinking water revolving loan funds, so we can provide the opportunity to have low-interest loans. There are lots of opportunities. Again, as a partner, the federal government has a lot of potential financial capacity to be a partner, so you can do loans and or grants. I think there are different programs, and obviously the road infrastructure and our transportation infrastructure need a lot of work. I know you were talking about rail earlier, and I've been working for a long time on logistics issues here in Southeast Michigan regarding transportation and the different ports and rail. So there's a lot of work that we have to do in our country because we're moving a lot of goods now. So I would just say that it's really important, again, to be a partner as a federal, as your congressperson. I would be your partner in making sure that we have investment in the 7th Congressional District, because we do have a lot of aging infrastructure. And as many of you know, just like your house, if you don't fix it, it gets worse. Like a roof, if you have a hole in your roof, it gets down into the drywall, and instead of being a small problem, it becomes a big problem. So it is a very important issue that I think together the federal, state, and local government needs to work together to resolve that problem. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. And at this point, we're going to go with closing remarks. And with that, let's start with Gretchen Driscoll. Gretchen.
Thank you. Well, it's great again. Thank you. It's great to have the opportunity. Again, I appreciate having the opportunity to come here and introduce the reasons that I'm running and a little bit more about my background. I have been fortunate to have the opportunity to be in public service now for, well, a total of 24 years, but 20 of those I was nonpartisan, and I did work with whoever I was working with, whether at the state, on federal level, in the county. I did a lot of work, you know, in economic development was actually a big area for me because of my financial background and my interest in successful business development. And actually ran on revitalizing our downtown in Saline a long time ago, and I'm really excited to see the really great work that's happening in Adrian. Actually, the Anchor Institution program is talking to you guys about that a little bit. But, you know, so I come from a background, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, of public service, and I do believe that the folks here in the 7th Congressional District have been, you know, need a voice in Washington, D.C. that really speaks to the concerns. I think there's a lot of opportunity. The economy is not working for everybody. I've talked to a lot of people out in the district here, and it's clear that there's a lot of people that are feeling left behind. Our per capita income in the 7th is lower than the national average, and I think we have a huge amount of opportunities, and I do have the background of working with businesses as a partner. I don't believe in, you know, this over-regulation or anything like that, but I do think that there is a way to make sure that we have strong communities that work for everyone, that we have a state and a region that we will be moving forward, that we bring talent back to our state. We've lost over 400,000 people have left Michigan and haven't come back yet. So we need to get some of those folks back. We need young people. I know that there's a few seniors here, and I know that I'm not getting any younger, and it would be great to have more young people come back and more entrepreneurial growth. And again, I do really support the small business model. I think that's how to make a strong community, and I do have a track record. I've been also working on internet and rural broadband. That's a great opportunity for investment. And I hope that you consider voting for me. Ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Closing remarks from Congressman Walberg.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of you being here, Gretchen, Dale, for participating in this. It's a great country we have. We're feeling pretty bummed about ourselves in some ways right now. There's a lot of upheaval. A lot of that could be taken care of by moving in the same direction to develop our economy. When people feel more secure about their economy, their situation, things seem to brighten up a bit. When they feel more secure in their communities, the safety, the educational systems, the opportunities for advancing, the career training, all of a sudden things start to brighten up and we find solutions. Right now, we've moved in the last 6 years by tough work from an average $1.3 trillion of deficit spending each year, on average, to now $550 billion. That's still a lot of money. We're $20 trillion in debt. We can talk about the federal government laying out money for everyone and everything, but we have to have those resources. To pay down the debt, to get out of deficit spending means that we have to understand that there are priorities that must be set. And the only way we ultimately do it is give the opportunity at the grassroots level for individuals, entrepreneurs, small business people, people who have ideas to expand and grow that economy. The government can't do it. We can't cut enough taxes. We can't cut enough spending to pay off that debt. We're going to have to grow the economy. That means working together. That means using principles that worked in the past and will work now. Free enterprise, personal responsibility, limited government, and a belief that each of us has the ability to carry the day in moving us forward. I've been privileged to represent you. I've been privileged to live here for 38 years. Every day I get off my air mattress in my office where I live, I realize this is home. It's not D.C. Thank you for the privilege, but thank you for being my home.
Thank you very much, Congressman Tim Alberg and Gretchen Driscoll, our candidates for U.S. Congress. Thank you very much this evening, everyone. I'd like to thank all of our candidates tonight for coming and giving their time for us here this evening.